quorum is full. And that brings us to our special recognition. Director Albers, do you have the slide deck?
Yep.
Director Quinzing, do you think you could recognize the people who went on capstone in Ballsy?
Well, I could, but I think also it'd be great if the principal could help with that, because we do divide and conquer a little bit on the duties. And so I know she was very eminently, very involved, including there. Intimately involved. But that also makes it good for me to recognize, because you don't need to recognize yourself. And Emily Albers was also there, which is also amazing. Great, so just want to thank Claudia, Kat, Emily, Andrew, and Elizabeth Zenpedig for taking our 8th graders to Germany for this exchange. I think it truly is a capstone. It's not just in name only, it is in all the planning and preparation that goes into it, the commitment of these adult chaperones. It's not always easy to be in a foreign country with foreign money and all sorts of other things going on. Access to different friends and different ways of doing things. Not always easy to be the adults who have to keep the students protected and safe. But they did it, and they did it with joy and really provided quite an amazing experience for our students. I did ask Emily today if she had anything special to share from that trip that she really enjoyed. So I think it'd be great if each of the people in here, including Andrew, who's over there in the corner, could share one really neat thing that happened on the capstone trip and why we appreciate you so much.
Starting with. So you're gonna start.
Yeah, why don't you start with you?
Tell
Tell us something great that happened.
Apart from living with my colleagues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed spending time with some of our German host schools and teachers and students. And they were very welcoming and invited me to see how special education is done in their schools. And I spent a lot of time observing classes and interacting with students in special education there. So it was really eye-opening and enlightening for me to get that experience to hopefully translate better into what we are trying to do here at the German Immersion School.
Thanks for sharing, and thanks for going and being part of that experience.
Yes.
Emily?
Thank you.
I previously mentioned to Director Cleansing that I thought the North Sea excursion on our day off was pretty fun, just because it wasn't something I was expecting to do. And so it was kind of a fun, like, surprise. I also really enjoyed getting to see the other side of the exchange. I feel like being here 6 years, I've seen the exchange happen a lot of times here, but it was fun to see it on that side of the pond and meet the German teachers that we've been working with for the last few years more and hang out with them too.
How many went?
37,
But how many next year?
67.
Huge. What'd you love about the trip?
We went to Patty's class. Patty is in the pink sweater, and she had 5th graders, and they asked us about 1,000 questions. It was really great. I really enjoyed that moment. They asked me if I was a 10th grader. That's great.
And don't forget to tell them how we got to Germany. That was in that class, right?
They asked us how we got to Germany too.
Yeah, which was on our school's private jet.
They were really sweet. It was fun to be in that class. All those people in that picture on the bottom, Patty, Hannah, Micah, and Daniel, 75% of them will be coming then again in fall. And it was great to see them again and hug them and get Patty's honey that she makes for us. And it was just great. It's like having friends.
So thanks for chaperoning the students, and thanks to the board for your constant support of this program. I think it really is a hallmark of what the school's mission and vision is all about.
Well, thank you.
And the Vault Say overnight, another very important opportunity for students that helps get them ready for a bigger trip overseas. This one does not take them overseas, but over many lakes and rivers and through the forest. So thanks to Chris Tavish, Kevin Everhart, Catherine Gilhuff, Tilda Hamer, Cindy Kittock, Anthony Loudon, Noah Brentlinger, Danny Nicholson, Laura Albrecht, Josie Stats, and Tom Kuhn for your support and commitment to this program and being that chaperone, volunteering, stepping up, providing that service, and providing our young people with experience of a sixth grade lifetime. Anybody here, Kevin, can you provide some highlights from the trip?
Sure. Some highlights were like, as always, singing and dancing in German. I think the Gaga Ball game is always very popular among students. And I think eating German food and experiencing that for a lot of them, it's the first time, also first time away from home. I think it's always an experience going up there.
Thank you, Director.
How many sixth graders went?
There are. Yeah,
Do you know?
So like
50 or
50
something.
something?
7.
And like, how many had been to Baltic before? Like, this guesstimate? Less than
Wrong
half?
person to ask that, I have no idea.
Very few have.
Yeah, okay. So it's kind of a new experience for most of them.
Yeah, and like, as I said, like for most, it's the first time away from home by themselves without parents.
That's good. Thanks for, you normally go on that, right? Yeah, well, thanks for always doing that. I think it's a great program, like Capstone. A good prep.
Thank you to all the chaperones. All right, next on the agenda is our playground. Yeah. So at our last board meeting, I had made a motion to asking for $245,000 to revamp our playground. And there was more information requested and also information from the campus planning committee. And so I put the slide deck that I presented at the campus planning committee into the board packet. Hopefully you had a chance to review it. I don't think it'd be in the best interest of time to go through all the slides right now. I hope we could get back on track with our time and finish this by 7:15. But ultimately, the recommendation starts on slide 57. Let me share my screen. Hosts have disabled screen sharing.
Hold on. Good to go.
And while we get that pulled up, were there any questions from the slide deck as presented in the document?
I have a question, but I might wait to ask it until after you present, so that I.
No, thanks for putting this together. This is very detailed and very colorful and, you know, descriptive.
Yeah. Good, you're welcome. Okay, so there is actually some brand new information as of our, what?
Which part?
Not that.
Well, good,
There's a
okay.
few new-
Which part do you want first, the bad news or
Few
good
new
news?
pieces of
Right,
information.
go for it.
So on Friday, we held a meeting with St. Croix Recreation, which is one of the 3 vendors we're working with as we develop plans and hopefully we'll come up with a great plan from one of them that we can afford and move forward with. And I think this one is looking very favorable right now. But what came to light is an issue with our dome. And we've known this before, that our fence, we had to adjust where the fence was when we added this building. The fence, when it was originally, when this dome was installed, the fence was out further. And then the building project, they determined that the property line was in further, so we had to build the fence there. Now that the fence is there, the fall zone is not appropriate for the dome. We're supposed to have a 6-foot fall zone around the whole thing. And I think this is at like, it's about a foot short, I think. So that's something that we actually have known, but new information is that they looked and they pulled up the specs on this particular piece of equipment. And you can see down here the fins that are sticking out right there. According to the diagram that they looked at for installation directions, those fins are actually supposed to be 12 inches under the ground. So as a result, this entire dome is up too high. And I drew a line of where it should be, and it actually makes sense because the slide that comes down kind of, they just fall off. At the end, it makes more sense if it's down to the ground. So this is a problem, and their recommendation is to move it. And so I think, given all that information, if we do want to keep the dome, and that is a very popular piece of equipment, people love it and people want to keep it, I think it would make sense to move it. So I just want to let you know that's an additional cost.
Is
So
there
this is-
somewhere to move it?
Yeah, I'll get to that. This is a picture of our the northeast playground. Originally, we were hoping we would keep this structure just to save money and continue having this functionality. Given the news that we probably need to move that dome, and some recent information on injuries from our health aide, she's shared that since April, there's been like 4 injuries from the monkey bars, and one of them just resulted in needing a surgery. Also the big slide that kids loved has been broken, and we had to remove that a while ago. So it's really only $5,000 to knock this thing down when they're doing all of the other stuff. And you'll see in our recommendation, we're recommending to remove that. And I just wanted to have the visual of the state of our poured in place rubber playground is in a state of disrepair and it's unsafe. So this is a proposal from St. Croix Recreation, moving the dome from where it is here over here. So it would be more of a central spot, which is actually really cool to kind of center that piece of equipment there. Bumping this out, this is all engineered wood fiber is the proposal for the playground surface here. Bumping this out would maintain the radius that we need for fall zones. This would be opened up then for some new equipment to go in here. And we have a design that kind of uses all of this space with some new equipment. This is currently poured in place rubber that would also be removed. We would like to put asphalt there so that our maintenance crew can drive a snow removal vehicle through the gate that's here. So that in the wintertime, they can come and plow this, and plow this, so that we can have nice open space on the sport courts to be used in the winter. Here we'd like to add paint games on there, Foursquare, other things like that. We also have a proposal to paint more colorful courts down here as well. Let's see. You can also see that kind of the standard is to add cement curbing around the wood fiber to keep that in place. We've got cement poured here and along here to extend this sidewalk. So we would have a nice sidewalk that wraps around the school so that parents don't need to walk in the playground space. The way we have it drawn right now, and this can all be changed if we wanted to, but they have it shown as a sidewalk here as well. Additionally, or let me bring you over to the west side. We have the sidewalk along the parking lot that just ends. We would pour concrete sidewalk to connect that to this sidewalk, which makes a lot of sense. And then we also have asked for a quote to add cement right here to build out this more like a cement patio. Because this is a gathering area, especially for our sports teams. This is the main entrance for sporting events when we have basketball and volleyball games, that sort of thing. So those are all incorporated into this price. Further, we have a trench drain that's labeled here in blue. And these blue lines are showing where they would lay new drain piping to carry the water away from the building and into the reservoir that we have built underneath this asphalt. Hopefully that'll help mitigate water issues that we have with water pouring into our boiler room. Andy has a video of it raining in there, so you can check that out. I think that highlights everything. Oh, here we're proposing removing the sandbox, filling it with fresh engineered wood fiber, also adding a cement curb around it to contain it. And adding Gaga ball pit here, and perhaps one more other ball game, which I'll show later. These are the images of some of the components that are in a quote we have right now for about $47,000 for the actual play equipment. So we're trying to meet the needs of what the students asked for with slides, a swing. This is like a sort of a swing where you can get that movement, but it's a safer option than traditional swings, which the committee is concerned about kids getting hit by the swinging motion and another source of injury that is common at playgrounds. All of this is just for kind of a stand-in for now. The committee hasn't been able to review it, but we did have about 4 or 5 committee members meeting with them on Friday. A spinning piece of equipment is really a high priority to get the kids being able to move. You can see the Gaga ball pit in the upper left corner. It's a balance thingy, some parallel bars. This is showing kind of the overall layout of how it would fit. So you can see it's a little more spread out than our current equipment, which is all kind of focused where the slide is right now on this picture. Trying to spread it out and creating like a bit of a challenge course for kids to traverse, you know, along these bars and do different things like that. And again, this can be modified. It's just a design number 1 right now. And this is showing just from a different angle. And then it's also showing kind of floating out here just as a placeholder that other game on the left side. It's called P6 ball. It's kind of like volleyball in that kids have to hit the ball up through their little hole, and each kid has a quadrant that they're in and they have to keep the ball up in the air. For that,
So it's like Foursquare, but you hit the ball up.
I think.
That's kind of cool.
And it could be a cool way to get the volleyball component in, because that's a desire. But we also do hope to add volleyball posts and a net that we can put up and take down as we need to. Okay, so all the site work is the majority of this budget. This is the quotation I received just today from Albrecht. And he has the quote up here at 174,850. It's for everything that I just described for site work, including moving that dome. All that good stuff, tearing out what's there now, clearing it out. I do want to point out that they have general notes, recommended additional budget items. Permitting, design, contingency. They're just not sure what they're gonna find when they start digging up underneath the poured in place rubber, so they want to have a little bit of a cushion there. You calculate out what they recommend for contingencies and permits and design, their total would be 211,000. And so the proposal is 211,000 for the site work. We want to use, and it's pictured earlier in the presentation, but street bond paint, which is a specifically formulated paint that can decrease the temperature of asphalt by 10 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be fantastic in the summer. And it would also make it bright and fun, and it has some sand in there to create a rough texture for safety as well. We do need a quote, but our estimate is about 10,000. We don't have the quote right now for the soccer goals, the volleyball posts, and the basketball hoops, but verbally on Friday, Chris said 4,000 for a set of soccer goals and 2,700 for gooseneck style basketball hoops. And I'm not sure what the volleyball posts in that would be, but it shouldn't be too much. So I'm estimating about 10,000. The 47,000 is showing the amount for that design I just shared. And so total would be 278,000. We have $15,000 from the PTO that was raised specifically for playgrounds. I'm proposing that we use 100,000 from our Community 4 Fund, which is the revenues generated from Kinder Club. And that money can only be used for things that benefit the community. So the playground is a perfect way to use that money. We have capital campaign funds of 42,500 that we raised in 2019 that have been earmarked for capital improvements. And so that would be a remaining 120,500 that would need to come from the fund balance and or the capital improvement fund. We could decide how to distribute that money and take it out. Yeah, so any questions?
You know, in one of the presentations, it had a depiction of some area with turf. Is that kind of totally off?
Yeah, it's very expensive.
Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. It would be really fun to have it, but it could be something
Could be
we
added
could do
later.
in the future, yeah.
And what is the material in the for the two sport courts? Is that a cement?
That's what's there right now. It's asphalt.
But is it gonna be something different or? is it
No,
gonna
this would be
asphalt?
unchanged. We would just add paint.
Oh, okay, so the black part, there's just new asphalt.
Oh, this is new,
And then
yeah,
connecting to current asphalt.
yep,
But it would be painted with the street reflective paint.
yep.
And is that an okay surface for soccer? Yeah, I'm asking about the turf.
You play gaga ball on,
It's usually on
Wood
dirt.
chips? Yeah,
You can,
It's
yeah.
usually on dirt.
It's usually sand. So wood chips would be fine.
With the moving of the dome, does refurbishing the dome come with that or? Do we?
No. It's in good shape, though.
I think the rope off, right?
Yeah, that is steel inside.
I did have a session. Sorry, I think I want to cut that short. Maybe we didn't.
Mhm.
Isn't there some like piping or something electrical along the wall kind of next to, yes, there.
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time on Friday talking about this too. And that's kind of why the price is higher. They're gonna have to thread the needle, so to speak, with the electrical and gas line that have to go underneath this dome. So we need to get it marked by our utility company where it is right now, and then they said that they can work around it.
Okay, and that still allows there to be a pathway around, like the side for,
Yeah.
you said parents could walk, not where the kids are playing.
Right,
Okay,
not sure how this will work.
Okay.
We'll have to,
it's not being moved.
oh, that's,
Or is it being moved?
yes, that'll be moved.
It will
Sorry,
be.
I was thinking that was something else.
That,
Um,
If it's in the
gate and
case,
everything.
That's the ping pong table right here.
yeah,
We're proposing moving this one that's in the fall zone, basically, moving it down here to the left of the staircase. And this one could stay here.
I think that's for the task force to talk, do they, if they.
Or
you
it
know,
could go
they
here
play
if we
with-
want it.
So they may play ping pong. Or do they just sit on it?
Must be.
Or
We
under
need a
them,
better-
under them,
We
shade.
need a better system to check out.
Okay,
We should do.
so details, so.
Better found ping pong is it's so predictable. There's better paddles that are made out of some solid rubber or something, so you can't. It's so easy.
Yeah, Monica bought new paddles for them and within a week they were broken. So I think similar to library books, if things get busted or lost, then kids should be responsible for replacing them. And the students themselves asked for an accountability system, which was in their presentation, which was really great to see.
That was cool.
It was cool. And so I sent that to Principal Zanfenig and Dean Radke to consider how they could implement that. All right, I'm not ahead of time.
I have a comment on, can you go to the quote? Oh, the next one, the breakdown of how we're gonna pay for it. If we're gonna invest roughly $280,000 into this playground, and equipment seems pretty cheap, I would like to know how much better our options would be if we were to stick a little bit more money there
Into the equipment.
into the equipment, because it seems like the equipment is what people want and is one of the cheaper aspects of it.
Mhm. So this is what I had, whoops, not sure. Slideshow. This is what I had my eye on, because we wanted a natural.
Maybe not the tower.
Yeah, I know, I was sticker shocked when I saw that too. But some of these are more reasonable.
Yeah, I just like if we're spending $280,000, like, and the equipment's only 47, and that looks like a great setup. What does another 20 grand get us? You know?
Yeah. I did get a quote from this company today, Midwest Playscapes. It's expensive. But I can pull it up real quick. So what are you thinking? Spending more money?
Surprisingly, yeah.
Before we go on spending binge. I do wanna point out something that will adjust all of the Excel spreadsheets you've seen on the campus planning resources and ideas moving into the future. found out today that there are a couple charter schools who have had their ERC money rescinded. They're currently working on a process to pay it back to the IRS. The IRS has changed their mind potentially as to whether nonprofit charter schools qualify for the ERC funds. In our case, we've spent $504,000 of our ERC funds. So if we get that message, we will have to pay back $504,000 to the IRS.
Have we spent it or did it go in the fund balance?
I think the majority of it went into the fund balance. I would say we probably spent one, I want to say 180. We spent of the first payment.
It's mostly in the fund balance, but I guess my point is it's making up the fund. About half of our fund balance at the moment. Our current fund balance that we can spend on these projects, that's my point. So of the fund balance that we can spend on the projects, it's 900,000. That's if we go down to the 20% reserve fund. So that's the edge of where we can be. And then 504,000 is how much would be the ERC funding.
So it's basically, if you look at this chart, looking at our fund balance of 900,000. Like bringing that down to 400,000, right?
Right, and that's if we've spent all the way down to 20%. Which I know that was a discussion point at our last board meeting as to whether you feel that close to the edge.
So this chart has a prospective ERC of 521 in there,
That's yet to be received.
okay? But then
But-
also that could be potentially paid back, have to be paid back.
We have received 504,000 and we have yet to receive 521,000. So what I'm saying is we could have the 504,000 that we've received recalled by the IRS.
And then also in addition, disallowed the 520
Correct, yes.
money.
And I just found that out today. Our authorizer had a meeting about the schools that they authorize and had the schools that this has happened to present.
And have they tried to object to the
Yes.
IRS's interpretation?
Yes.
I would like to acknowledge that Richard saw that coming and said we shouldn't fund the money. So good job.
That's smart.
I think you said they might claw it back.
Oh, that's exactly what I said.
So that's a
Clawing
bummer.
has begun.
And then when we put it in perspective with the HVAC improvements that we're looking at doing, that project, Andy can speak to it, is at least a year out. There has to be engineering done to figure out exactly the best system to put in there. But they're very expensive systems.
The lowest quote so far is 522,000. And the higher quote is 828,000.
I'm wondering if, ultimately, should we replace the windows first to try to make it more comfortable there? I don't know, there's,
Everything else.
everything would help. Or even shading, like,
I mean, if you actually want the comfort, it's the air conditioning is going to it when it's hot.
mhm.
It's- I don't know. Both of those proposals get rid of the old Benmar units on the roofs that are too expensive. It's not just air conditioning. It's also the makeup air units that are like over 20 years old. Are being replaced at the same time, so that way. It's more efficient if you have air conditioning inside the new unit. Rather than adding air conditioning and waiting till the other ones die and then you have to put, new makeup air units on there. That's part of the cost too. So, yeah, I'm,
Well, if the ERC money goes away, which I'm willing to bet it will. And they probably won't be taking it from the people they should be taking it from that received it, but I won't get on a soapbox. And in reference to your comment before about spending down to the 20%, that's something I personally am not very comfortable with. So what that means to me is that all of the HVAC project is going to be very hard to do with what we have. And I think we are going to have to relook at that and consider alternative financing options or something like that, that is not something that we can do with the money we have currently. You know, there's there's financing, possibly we can look for grants and try to, you know, get really lucky. Or consider, I don't want to say it, bonding to do a project like that in a couple of years. So point being, I don't see spending some of the money we do have on a playground as taking away from a project that can't happen with what we have right now. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I don't think it should deter us from moving ahead with the playground project.
And the campus planning committee felt the same way. Supported the playground.
Just wanna, Karen, to your point there, I just Googled the payback, IRS payback here, and there's some attorneys stating that the ERC program allows participating employers who need and want to repay the ERC to voluntary payback 80% of the total received as a credit or refund. So when you get that statement, you can only pay 80% back. So that would actually say that you can keep 1,000, so it's not too bad.
Something.
Yeah, well, you know, and then you have to pay penalties and interest on it too, so.
Is there a window for doing that?
It
feel like we
doesn't
have
say,
one.
I just Googled it quick and then.
Yeah, the justification was that they had to pay to get the money, like you had to pay your preparer and do other stuff to get the money, and so they weren't gonna take it all.
Which we did, we paid for that preparation, so
Anyway, so there's a way out.
hopefully we don't have to pay it back. It's only gonna be a couple schools. I don't know.
Well, actually, it says will remain open through March 22, 22nd, 24th, so that's. Well, anyway, so.
So we have no idea what their timeline is for being able to ask for the money back.
so the only caveat is the 2 units that are up there are 20 years old, they're over 20 years old, and there's no replacement parts for them. So if the heat exchanger goes out or something like that, you're gonna be looking at replacing it regardless.
But is there a solution that we can do for $200,000?
As far as,
Just
Replacing
replacing
those?
exchangers
Oh.
without AC units.
I can look into that.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's the amount of money that we're
Sure.
looking at having without finding finance options or something like that.
You know, one thing we could look at as far as the playground goal is not doing the waterproofing in the boiler room. Because if they're putting a sidewalk around the building, we should look at what that does first.
I don't
And
think
that-
this quote had the waterproofing in it though.
Oh, did it? No,
I don't
it
think
was
so.
listed.
Was it listed?
It was listed.
The blue things, wasn't that the?
Well, that's the
Drainage.
drain tile.
Yeah, that's the same. That's,
Mm.
it's basically preventing the water from getting into the boiler room. And I mean, the boiler room, it'd be nice not to
What
get
is
water in there, but if the sidewalk reduces it, maybe we can live with that. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mhm.
that would take $20,000 or $30,000 off of that. I don't know. We'd have to ask Albrecht. Okay.
I'm just trying to pull it up and share it. Slideshow. Where did you see
On the
waterproof?
bottom of the drain tile.
Okay. So you're saying we might not need the drain tile?
Oh, unless that's, wait a minute, no, I'm sorry,
'Cause
that's the drain tile under the playground.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's has nothing to do with the walls, okay.
'cause the
My mistake.
waterproofing on the walls is something
Yeah.
different. Yeah. Yeah, so I think we need all of this.
Smell it just down.
All right.
So some money.
What's the expected lifespan of the new materials? we put down?
Well,
We all thought
engineered-
we'd get a lot more out of this.
Engineer wood fiber needs to be added to, like you need to add fresh wood fiber every couple years, but it's inexpensive.
Drain that much it gets.
If we did the port in place rubber, it's supposed to last 20 years. Ours did not, but
It wasn't actually poured in place.
ours was a different product. That
We explored whether we have any warranty issues. We have people nodding. We don't.
Warranty issues. Yes.
passed that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to remind you that the 100,000 from the community fund can't be used on things like HVAC. Because it needs to be something that benefits the whole community. Oh.
Yeah, I still support it, but I maybe don't want to buy extra equipment.
Understood.
Sorry, I had to prepare that news today.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the use of $263,000 to be taken from the Fund 4, 100,000, capital campaign funds, 42,500. And from the fund balance for capital improvement fund, 120,500. For the playground plans. Similar to what I just presented with final design pending community feedback. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Director Hyde. Discussion on the motion.
What's your sense on the predictability of the project? Is my concern is project creep and those sort of extras. It doesn't sound like they're willing to do it as any kind of fixed project. Did you guys explore like a cap or anything like that? Because, and what happens if there's, you know, suddenly another 40 grand that needs to be found to make this a $300,000 project instead?
Well, they do have a $17,500 contingency built in,
Yeah,
so. I guess anything that goes above that would be a new vote.
but not if we sign a contract that says, yeah, do this.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, are they willing to say like, won't go above 210, 250?
So I think we'll have, so he says here, all work and quantities listed below are approximate and based on provided concept drawing. So that's the next step is we need an actual drawing where, you know, he has a 10,000 design budget here.
Mhm.
We do have a connection to a landscape architect through one of our playground committee members. They sent a quote today for the same services, not to exceed 4,000. So I think we can go with him, get a drawing done. And then once we give Albrecht the drawing, he can do the final quote where it's not an estimate, you know, he says budget estimate here.
But doesn't it also say, but we're also not factoring in any surprises? Like if they
Yeah, I
find
think-
concrete, for example, under the poured surface, that's gonna add a lot to also demolish and get rid of, unless they can just put it on top, which I don't know why they can't put it on top, but. I don't like to do that,
Mhm.
right? That's my
Andy,
only
do you know
concern.
anything about what's under the,
As far as I know, it's just gravel and dirt,
Okay,
because when they install it, that's what they put in.
because you saw it when it was
Yeah.
being installed?
It's okay. I mean, you know, we could have another conversation with our brake company and say, this is our budget, that's all we have money for. When you can, if you can do it for this, fine, and if not, then. Say let me. You know, see what they say.
Mhm.
We can also hold off on ordering basketball hoops and soccer goals and stuff like that. Until we know that the project's gonna come out about where we want it to be.
Mhm.
And if, you know, it goes over, we don't order them. We have a drive to raise the money from the community or something like that.
Yeah.
So then we're, you know, a $30,000 buffer.
Mhm.
Don't we need basketball hoops because they're broken?
What's that?
Or you can hold up on the plate, I mean,
I
you
thought
can,
the basketball hoops were broken and we needed to get new.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure we need it all, but I'm just saying, like, worst case scenario.
Well, not everything on the playground is quote unquote broken. I mean,
Yeah.
I think literally the basketball hoops are in disrepair. We
Mhm.
need to be prepared for us to host
biggest-
basketball.
Biggest problem is they can't support all the kids hanging on it all the time.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, worst
Yeah.
case scenario, if we don't want to go over this by spending more money out of our pockets, like, that's how we do it.
Oh, I see.
And then we get together as a board and decide whether we want to spend the extra money on those things or we just don't get to have them because something unfortunate happened.
I do see them as two separate kind of boats. I mean, I think that the basketball
Mhm.
hoops are part of athletic.
Same with the
expenditures.
paint, like, that's something that
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
street.
something
yeah.
terrible comes up or something, like, that's something we can live without for a year or two.
Mhm.
We all could.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would actually, not that I'm voting, but I would leave the basketball and street. Paint, is that for street, that's street paint on the outdoor courts or on the indoor courts?
Outdoor.
Oh,
Outdoor.
okay, sorry, I was checking, Jim. Never
No.
mind. Strike my repair.
As far as the paint goes, I was contacting Sherman Williams as far as to see what they have, it might be a cheaper option. I can get some parents together, maybe we could do it ourselves, you know, let's say,
Mhm.
I don't know. Somewhere.
is there any, this is probably a stupid question, but could you resell the existing playground that we're gonna get rid of?
For about 40 cents. Bob.
You would
Well,
not
no,
say,
but
give me,
one vendor we talked to did suggest there might be a Amish community that would come and take it for us. Like, we'd say $5,000 then,
I mean,
because
that's
they would
another
Mhm.
piece of.
take it
equipment.
apart and take it. So we could explore that for sure.
But effectively, I think, Director Hartman, you're asking, or what I would also ask is, if it'd be possible to get some kind of guarantee from that, you know, they'll eat any cost overrun. Because I think, when we vote to approve this, we're also voting to approve whatever cost overrun comes, because we're not gonna stop after spending so much, just because we're 20K short.
Mhm. So I think we would we would not sign a contract that exceeds this amount. And once so if if their budget, if their quote comes back higher for some reason, then we'll have to ask them, you know, what can we take out to get it back down? But I think this is pretty close based on our conversation on Friday.
And it sounds like some of these things we have to do. We have to fix the water.
Get rid of the surface.
We have to move the dome. Like, half of this money is non-discretionary at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
Like it's stuff,
roughly $211,077, but it's not discretionary.
Can we only approve the first position 211 and the equipment? Let's say if we do the 211 plus 50,000 for equipment. And then leave the other twos as like to be approved later.
So up to 211 on the big project and
Yeah,
then
the
up to
211
50
plus
on.
50, let's say 261 minus the
Equipment.
50 on the PTO. So then it, you're
Right.
at 246.
Can the 15 go toward the first project or does it has to be playground equipment? So just playground,
Which,
the,
sorry,
the
15,000 is playground equipment.
equipment, okay. So 45 to the equip, or 35 to the equipment, minus the 15 from the PTO. And then the 211 to the, up to 211 to the resurfacing, drainage, all that cement project.
So do you want to make an amendment proposal?
Yeah, I propose to approve the 211,000 for the demolition and for all the work by Albrecht, by this company, plus the equipment. That's my amendment.
Is there a second?
This is just a technicality, but the total for the work site is over 211 by $77. So do we need to?
Well, he's at 50,000.
Well, then I amend my.
Finance guys who are so. I just. Julie back and after math.
I mean, that's what their contingencies
Yeah.
were.
I'm
So,
sure the 77, they can back it all the contingency. Well, you have to negotiate hard to get them down to 211.
Just saying.
and
sorry,
also
was
if you
the-
read the
was there a
full.
second? I missed it. On the amendment,
And so your motion includes the 47 for the equipment?
Yeah.
And so we're just leaving out the 20 for the street bond and the soccer goal
Yeah.
to give us a buffer.
Yeah.
And then we just approve that at a later date, assuming that,
See how the whole thing goes. If it goes like that, then you can approve the 20. It's good.
Mhm.
would we have time to approve the extra 20 for the painting and still have it be done in the summertime? What, do we know what because we don't meet in July. Is this gonna happen over the summer?
it is.
All the resurfacing would be done by when the kids get back. But that company doesn't do the painting, right? That would be separately contracted.
It would be separate, yeah.
Or parents.
Yeah, Albrecht indicated that to get on their summer schedule, we need to know tomorrow.
Okay.
I would also like to acknowledge that if you read the full report from the playground committee, that grants have been applied for, more grants will be applied for. Just because we approved this $263,000, I know that Julie and Candace and company are not gonna just go start writing checks without doing the work to try to get the best deal, to save money where we can, or to bring other income in. So I'm comfortable with doing it the way it is and hoping that it comes in where we don't need to use the 17.5 that's in there for contingency already. But if it makes the rest of the board comfortable to take out the basketball hoops and the sport paint for now, I'm okay with that.
Can we
Wasn't-
amend it to prioritize, to not have to re-vote on it, but to prioritize
I guess
that?
what I'm saying is I trust them enough
Yeah.
that they will do that without us having. to-
Well, I trust them too. Don't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
me wrong, it's just, we need to have a formal process here and. No, I absolutely trust them too.
Because I don't think there is like a guarantee that this will not go higher. So,
Not until we sign a contract.
so when we sign a contract, that would be a guarantee that all services will be delivered
Mhm.
at the.
That was my question.
I can have you review it.
Well, yeah. Um. I mean, that'd be great if you got the sense that they're willing to do that once you sign the contract, that it's not just an estimate anymore, it's an actual fixed
Yeah,
bid.
but I don't think we'll have that until we get the drawing.
Yeah.
So we need to start working with the landscape architect to get a drawing that they can bid off of.
Mhm. Does it? Would we have it by our June meeting? Do we
Yeah.
think?
We should.
Would we have time to revote for the extra 20 if that would? If that's needed in June?
Right, I also know that nobody's gonna sign a contract with us. They're absolutely tied to a certain number. It's always gonna be outs if they dig up the ground and there's a
toxic waste.
water main that's, leaking or something, like they're not covering that. Just because they signed a contract with at a certain amount, so. There's always some risk there, and that's what that, roughly 15% buffer is built in for.
I'm sorry if I missed this, but was there a second to the amendment?
I never heard one.
Okay, and we don't actually need to discuss it. when the amendment fails. Okay, so we'll go back to the original motion. To approve the 263,000. Is there further discussion?
Sorry, is the expectation it's as allocated? Because that's my concern too. I don't want to get stuck with a $250,000 bill for the resurfacing. And that's why I think Britt and I were both kind of trying to say, well, the board is approving up to X dollars for
For each item,
just really for the resurfacing big, the boring project with the nice result.
right?
Right? And then for the fun stuff, that's the rest of the budget, right? So like a not to exceed number, and if we need to say, you guys, I mean, this has been so much work and thank you so much. If that didn't come across earlier, Richard said, thanks to the task force, or the committee. That may also help you guys in having a maximum that you are like, we cannot go above 215, right? In negotiating,
Right.
178 for the project, and then we have this wiggle room for contingencies, maybe.
Right.
Maybe that conversation. So. But if that's the expectation here, like the 211 is on that line item and it's not just 270 for the whole project, regardless of where it gets allocated,
Right. That's the intention,
the latter
that it should be
in line with the budget.
in line with this.
Okay,
As
I'm
shown.
comfortable with that.
All right. All those in favor of approving the motion of using $263,000, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries and our playground is funded. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We are,
Great work.
thank you. Sorry that we are beyond our agenda. Let me see where we are at.
So I did a water from the playground and laughed a little bit to myself.
I can go super quick through my slides
I saw.
and put Karen.
You want to go first?
I think I am first.
Ours is merged, but hers slides are at the beginning.
Okay. Go for it.
They're all in there. If board members want to, I'm sure you've all looked at them already, but just do some highlights. I'm like, ready to go.
And have you stop sharing?
Oops, sorry.
All right, when you're ready.
Okay, Yeah, thanks, Emily. Go ahead and click forward. Looking again to the three parts of our mission, there are some items here for innovative education. We are sort of in this big push to the end, so coming in the June meeting. I think we'll talk a lot more in detail about student data, but right now, things we've got working are some MCA data, which is still embargoed. We're gonna use that to make some mixed age level classes in I think it's gonna be our 6th and 7th grade. So more on that in June. We had a PD day on Friday and we are checking off the boxes that our staff needs to have in order to be relicensed. So we checked 4 of those boxes this year and 2 of them on Friday. We are continuing to look at enrollment and working with the column that is we call it the 50/50s, the 50%, and kind of dealing with that number that came from the 8-year average. And our right sizing is going well. We're still keeping DOC, UD, and Spanish. Nothing has changed there. Next slide. ANSYS grant has been submitted. The CEIS grant, which is the grant we use to fund our behavioral interventionist, is going to continue. Title funds have moved, MDE has moved their title up from, or their deadline up from, I don't know,
September, it
September.
was September.
Now
1st.
it's 7/1, so we'll be working on that. Teachers are soliciting proposals for summer writing, and then the task forces, we're supposed to have met on Friday. Only the German immersion task force met because the mental health PD ran a little long. But we are still planning on sharing out in the full staff meeting on the 14th and then in the June board meeting. Next slide. Whole child education, we've got a lot of field trips that have been happening. Como field trip to the state capitol, talked about Valtse and Capstone. We did our first middle school student belonging survey. Results will be shared at the June board meeting. Teaser, 86% of our students feel they belong, some room for improvement. Whole child task force continues to work on SEL, diverse field trips. We are meeting with an organization called Osprey Wilds to add a 4th/5th grade field trip. We're not sure. We think it should land in 5th grade next year, but it eventually be in 4th grade. It's an overnight, I think, obstacle ropes course kind of thing as a welcome to middle school, getting ready for Valtse, which gets ready for Capstone. The nice folks at Osprey Wild said that we can do it in German, so we're pretty excited about that. Catherine and I are meeting with them tomorrow. Next slide. Session's done. That was great. Valley Fair is happening. Dances this Friday. Oh, lots of Osprey Wild stuff. German immersion slide. Oh, there's some pictures. Great. We created a document that collected the grammar function by grade level to use as a scope and sequence and inform grade level teams and specialist teachers. We're finding that the things that happened before COVID are not necessarily aligning, and so this is a realignment. The yearbook, which we produce entirely in German, will be released soon. Capstone for class of 2025 is being matched with their partners before the end of the school year. SOPA is happening this week, and in the EFL A2, those German testing screeners are happening. We met with Juliana Schicker from Carleton twice. I was just emailing with her today. She and I are planning on doing she's gonna come in and take some data, some assessment of what students are producing and what strategies we're seeing around our school to inform some PD for fall next year. This was an example of the document that was created on Friday. Dr. Amy who works for the LEAPS Act, which is a federally funded multilingual organization. She came to our meeting on Friday and she is collaborating and consulting with our immersion concept. She helped us flesh out our goals for PD and for German immersion next week. And those will be coming again to the June board meeting with the other task forces.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Principal Sonkenning? All right. Director Sonkenning.
So, our attendance report is in every packet. This month's winner is grade 6 at 96.71% in attend best attendance rate for the month. Our current enrollment for this school year is at 568. Okay. And our enrollment for fiscal year 25 sits at 595. And you can see the section breakdown there. We have a couple of areas in first grade, fifth grade, and seventh grade that are teetering on the edge of 2 or 3 sections. So we're currently monitoring those. No hard and fast decisions made yet, but the section totals there, it's hard to determine. First grade looks, if we have attrition. What's that?
We counted for attrition in the numbers that we used.
Yeah. So when we do think about staffing for next year, we are thinking about our typical loss of about 4% of students over the summer. So you'll see 56 there, but we'll probably lose a couple students in first grade. Okay. This is, right now, we're trying to make decisions based on 50% of babies leave, and 50% of haven't responded leave, no answers. So you can see that column is at around 575, 575. Yep. So that's where we're trying to, it's our target budget right now and our target for planning for next year. Our financial indicators as of April 30th are 89 days cash on hand with an expected number of 77 days cash on hand by the end of the school year. Our enrolled ADM that we're budgeted at is, our enrolled ADM is 573 on average at the moment. I know that's lower than actual enrolled, but it has to do with averages. And our budgeted ADM is at 575. Our debt service credit ratio, after some work on the working budget, thank you to Isabel and Kim on that, we were able to get it up to 1.03, which is exactly where we want it. So no special meetings need to be had. Fund balance as a percentage of expenditures in the approved budget is still at 31.8%, but in the updated working budget, it's at 30.6%. Staffing report, our Kinder Club director has departed her position as of May 21st. We posted for the position May 24th. It was for, she was resigned for personal reasons. Offer letters went out to teachers on April 5th. We have about 26 of 40 of those signed. We've had 3 teachers resign, mostly for personal reasons. All for personal reasons. Other teachers who have not signed are just waiting for the collective bargaining agreement to be determined. Administrative and support staff offer letters are going out after budget negotiations have been finalized. And if that doesn't happen, then we have a plan B. So. New school proposal for the collective bargaining agreement. The union asked for the school to share a traditional schedule, one that does not include a career ladder. So this is the new school proposal that has been proposed. You can go ahead and the features of it are that it's a traditional pay schedule, does not include that career ladder. The scale brings all salaries between 82 and 85% of surrounding traditional districts. Starts with a BA year 1, the scale increases 2% going down per experience level and 3% going across per educational level. The scale goes up to 18 years and our current schedule is only at 15 years, so this is an improvement on that as well. Just for some context, These are some phone calls we made at the start of the negotiations sometime last fall, winter, where we were asking some of the schools that we compete with, what their low, average, and high salaries are for charter schools. So this comparison shows us the averages for those schools, and our proposed Twin Cities German immersion schedule gets us above those averages, although not far above. It definitely puts us competitive with our other charter school competition. Our traditional school comparison also is another benchmark we use for determining starts at the beginning and end of our pay scale. You can see where our Twin Cities German immersion BA step 1 at 37,145, and that comparison to other nearby traditional school districts. And then compared to other educational attainments. So we can find the gap, and the percent difference sits at about 21.8%, which is consistent with the gap usually in our revenues that we also receive. We also are trying to pay attention to the sustainability of our proposed salary schedules, because we don't want to price ourselves out of existence. So this is a graph showing the current scale with no changes to it and the school's new proposals. So to give you some context of how it kind of shows you a little bit how it flattens out a little bit with the red line. Another comparison point is that the school's current proposal offers higher salaries than the union's proposal in all cases through year 21. On average, the school's proposal is 8.3% higher than the union's current proposal, and that's on the next page. So this shows you the union's proposal. Julie, do you want to speak at all to this?
Sure, the union's proposal went up to 25 years. I think that's, let's see, they started at this, step 1 is our current schedule. So they took the salaries from our current schedule and kept those the same for step 1. And then they also increased by 2% each year, as we're proposing in ours. So the main difference here is that we're starting our proposal at a higher salary rate for step 1 to get it competitive with other charter schools and within the 85% target that we're aiming for compared to other traditional schools. So by us starting at a higher salary in step 1 and going up 2% each step, as the union had proposed at all levels, our offer is higher up to 21 years. As we mentioned, our proposal stopped at year 18. So then at year 18, anyone that's beyond that would have the same salary as shown at year 18.
You can go to the next slide. This slide shows you the percent differences of the school's current offer on the table versus the union proposal. Any questions about the current proposal that we've put on the table?
You should describe the difference in longevity pay that we're proposing.
That wasn't in there. The other difference in the two proposals is that we're proposing the longevity pay not go into the base of the teacher salary, because they'll have the higher salaries. And then they would get bonuses every 5 years, 5, 10, 15, 20. No, not 20. Yeah, 20.
Mhm.
Yeah, at 5, 10, 15, 20. adjusted to, I have to look up the amounts we're at. Does anyone remember the amounts we were at? But that's different because the union's proposal would, continue with current longevity and also put it in the base pay of the, teacher salary schedule. That, is about $150,000 cost for the school every year. It would double the red line that you saw on the previous schedule. So I have to look up, sorry, the costs that the bonuses we proposed, because it didn't make it. Any other questions while I'm looking that up?
Excuse me, can you go back a couple slides? One more. So the school's proposal is higher than the union's proposal?
With the base salaries in the teacher salary schedule, yes.
Okay.
But the way our longevity currently works is that at 5 years, the longevity pay gets added to the base salary. And then at 10 years, that's increased and that's added to the base salary. So our proposal is to do a one-time bonus at 5-year, 10-year, 15 and 20.
Which does not go into the base.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the big
Got it,
distinction,
yeah,
right?
so, okay.
But Karen, I think our offer right now is the same number. So if it's 1,500 at
Yeah.
5 years, is that what it is?
It is,
It's
I
the
just
same.
threw it on one of these slides. So if you go past the green one. No, it didn't update, that's all right. Yeah, it's 1,500 at year 5, 2,500 at year 10, and 3,500 at year 15, and 4,500 at year 20. But not going into the base salary, yeah, that's the big distinction between the two proposals, that and the fact that our base salaries are higher. Without, but it doesn't include longevity base.
Sorry, it's so like between 5 and 10 years is the difference that currently there'd be 500 every year, each year. And it's added to the base and instead it will be added up and paid at the end of 10 years.
So no,
Or-
it's a bonus in year 5. Oh, in year
It's
6
a
after 5.
one-time payments.
One time.
But what's the current bonusing payment?
The
Once-
current bonus goes, it's 1,500 until they get to it goes into their base pay. It's another 15.
It's 1,500
Until year
at 5,
10.
6,
So from
7,
5,
8,
6, 7.
9.
Okay.
And then
it's
at year 10,
1,500
you
every
get
year.
2,500 at year 11, 12, 13, 14.
Each year.
Yep.
Okay.
But our reason for looking at that is the cost is.
So
very
that's the
small.
main sticking point, I think, right now, is the longevity pay, and they had a counter offer for us regarding longevity pay.
They do.
They did.
You guys know the impact on that 8.3% when you factor in the bonus? What's the difference?
Yeah,
And it's hard to know because people join the school at different years of experience.
That's yours.
But our proposal also included a bridge where nobody would be making any less.
That's
So
still
if,
there.
if their current salary and longevity pay were to be higher than where they would land on the new schedule, they would be paid the higher amount plus 1%.
Somewhere between 3 and 6 people. on average.
yeah, their counter proposal was to not have the 5-year bonus at all.
Yeah.
And
And
just
keep it the way it
maintain
is.
Yes.
the 10-year, 15 and 20. And maintain it to be added to the base salary. But we meet again on Thursday, so.
Yes,
we'll talk.
so we just wanted to update everybody where we're at. Questions?
Any questions for Director Cleansing? We are on time. Good job, guys.
Quick update on this budget, it's balanced and it's ready for approval pending the closure of the teacher salary discussions, or plan B if we can't get to that decision in time for the June board meeting. It fulfills all the requests from staff, which were made through our new budgeting process this year. We're budgeted at 575 ADM, and it's more conservative budgeting number than the recent year's budgeting approach of using last year an ADM of 611, which for us would have been the equivalent of 600 this year, which is where we were at when we started this process. And then it achieves a 1.0 plus DSCR. So you'll see that in June when it comes. We might even talk about it at the committee of the whole, right? Okay.
Good work.
I feel like that deserves like a round of applause.
We can do that.
And just my hats off to Isabel and Kim, who really stepped up and learned the process, run the process, and they're gonna do quite well with it next year, I'm sure, so. Twin Cities German immersion families attended the Lake Como cleanup with their shirts on. And you can see pictures there, and then the grandparents coffee clutch was super successful with over $600 profit on merchandise, $150 in donations, and 123 email inboxes received, so. Go ahead. And we also had a used book sale with $1,057 in profit, new family play date, which happened with almost 15 families attending, so these are new families that are coming on board. And a new family welcome night with almost 50 attendees, and we decorated the foyer for this event, so come check that out, the blooming flowers. So some things on the horizon are Deutsche Tage at the GAI on June 8th through the 9th, new family play dates on June 8th and August 18th. Como Pride on June 30th, Como D10 Ice Cream Social July 12th, and the TCGIS Alumni Picnic coming up on August 6th. And we do need volunteers for all of those, so as usual, contact Paige. It is, that's it.
All right, you're still on time. I did remember one more sticking point though with the negotiations is the back pay question.
Oh, yeah.
That they are still asking for back pay for this current year based on our new proposed salary schedule. But as we saw, our DSCR just barely got above 1, and that's just indication that we don't have money
Yeah,
to
the
spend.
funds aren't there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we can trust the employee retention credit money to be usable
Mhm.
at this point, if it does come in.
All right. Any questions? All right, thank you. It is 8:15 and we will go into recess. How long is our recess?
15 minutes.
Well, we only have 10 minutes. Can we do it in 10? 10 minutes, 8:25, we'll be back. Okay, it's 8:26. We are back in session. Next on the agenda is liaison updates. Are there any updates from our parent, staff, admin, or academic officer?
Really quick, there's a CAC meeting on the sixth, Monday the third, man, right month, wrong day. So if you're interested in being on that one, that's the last one for the year. Other than that, nothing else from the academic officer.
Is that in person or on Zoom or both? Is the Zoom on the calendar?
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Anything else from the liaisons? I don't think so. I think we can move on to our governance and leadership development to-do list.
So we're doing another push as usual this month. Most of you probably know our policies are reviewed and approved on a cycle. Some of them come up annually. The others are pretty much all on a 3-year cycle. So we have 8 policies listed in the governance committee rolling agenda attached to the board packet that are, we did first readings on at our, whatever date that meeting was, 20th, May 20th. So that's the first board reading, given that they're showing up in this packet. And that's annual review of the mandated reporter policy that we have. And then, so well, don't expect there will be a lot of changes with that one, but TBD. Policy 515 is our protection and privacy of pupil records. That one was affected by the legislative changes, so we're working through those MSBA updates or template updates, and a form that goes with that. Policy 801 is the equal access to school facilities, which is different from the policy about using the school building. That one is required under a federal statute. 105 is the policy that relates to public posting of the run brief and of the school meeting, of these videos of these meetings. And 106 is the run brief newsletters, and it deals with how long they are posted publicly on our website. Policy 2808 is the policy on how we pass policies. We'll be looking at that one. 410 is the FMLA policy. And I feel like FMLA changes need to be put into it, but I've reached out to Kim and hopefully she'll take a look at that. Oh, and then policy 612.1, which is parental involvement in Title I programs. So those will all be discussed at the committee's June meeting. If anybody has feedback, get it to me in advance or feel free to drop into the meeting. We're always looking for more people. Tonight, we're gonna consider approval for also 8 policies. 3 of them are coming out of their second reading at the May meeting, and the others are from last month. The policies that are in the packet, and if they're not new, there's a red line attached that you hopefully had a chance to review. There's a brand new gender inclusion policy, that's 518. That one was recommended by the Diversity and Belonging Committee to address expectations relating to gender nonconforming and transgender students. A lot of the policy sort of points at other policies we have that apply and just sort of expressly points out that these are harassment policy, our bullying policy, our privacy policy, our dress code. We don't have a dress code policy, but the handbook relating to dress code, like how those all apply. And then it does a couple of new things regarding access and usage of pronouns and some other stuff. We worked on that in the governance committee, but a lot of that came directly out of the proposed policy from Diversity and Belonging.
The second one up tonight is the Pledge of Allegiance policy. This one, we haven't made substantive changes to the policy, but we did have some robust discussion around the purpose of the policy. So under Minnesota law, the board has the authority to waive the requirement that students recite the Pledge of Allegiance at school. The board has done so for kind of our collective memory. It looks like in some very early years, maybe not, but this policy that we have reflects that and says students won't have to recite the policy. The board needs to re-up that decision on an annual basis. So the proposal is to approve the policy tonight as a policy consistent with our past practice that will show the board's exercise of that authority to continue not requiring students to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. But going forward, the proposal is to have the policy reflect the reality that the board is waiving, but have it be a separate agenda item and put the policy on a 3-year review cycle and rely on a board action to effect that decision to waive the requirement. The next one is also another new policy that was recommended and proposed by the fundraising committee to provide some procedures and some guardrails and a little bit of education around expectations on fundraising by the school and the students for curricular and extracurricular activities. So it's not parent teacher, it's not outside of school stuff. We did work on that and make some changes in the governance committee with a lot of input from Kirsten. So that one is up. The next one, and these are the ones that were on last month's agenda, is the internet use and safety policy. This one gets reviewed annually. We made some updates that were to conform with some legal requirements and talked with IT about how those we need to make sure we're implementing them consistent with our policy. 417 is the chemical use and abuse policy that had some relatively minor updates from changes to the cannabis and cannabinoid legislation that's floated through in the past couple of years. And then the last 3 are the finance policies that I think everybody is aware of to more or less some extent. 714 is the fund balance policy. This one is also reviewed annually. We had some changes that came out of the finance committee in an effort to just sort of clarify some stuff about the use of funds and the balances in the various fund balances. And then 716 and 718 are new policies. These were both requested by our auditors during the last audit. The policy 716 is capital asset capitalization policy. That one was proposed by our accountant and to have some clarity around characterization of certain capital assets. And then the EFT policy, the electronic funds transfer policy, sets out sort of the procedures and processes for who at the school can and what the authority is for doing electronic fund transfers. So I'll make a motion to approve 518, 531, 717, 524, 417, 714, 716, and 718.
Thank you for the motion, Director Hartman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Albers. Discussion on the motion.
You said the pledge is gonna move to a board action item. Can that fund balance policy that has to be reviewed every year do the same type of thing? Or is that something we need to
I
review? The
think
full
that has to
policy?
be reviewed annually.
The policy itself, understood.
Good question. Any other questions or discussion? All right. Well, thank you to you and the Governance and Leadership Development Committee for all of your work on these policies. And thank you to the Diversity and Belonging Committee for creating the gender inclusion policy. I appreciate that a lot. And thank you to the fundraising committee for creating the fundraising policy. So a lot of collaborative effort here.
And finance.
There.
Fine.
And the finance. And you all took the finance.
Okay, fine. You have new ones as well. Good job. No, that's awesome. Capital assets, EFT, fund balance. Yeah. Thank you for everyone's hard work. To the whole board. All those in favor of approving these policies, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries and the policies are approved.
Oh, thanks Lori for all of that.
Yeah.
Really just kind of clean up everything for us before you're out of here.
There's more.
Make it easy, yeah.
Always coming.
And thank you to Principal Zenfini. She is at every meeting and super helpful and a great resource and always good input. And Julie and Emily. I appreciate that very much. I'm not sitting there by myself.
All right, next is the committee of the whole follow-up from that meeting. At committee of the whole, we had decided to ask for feedback from the staff, parent, and student councils on the executive director job description. And so that feedback was received on May 22nd. In the board packet, we have the original version of the executive director job description that was given for review. And then I also included a revised version that is based on the feedback that was received. And so I thought we could use that as a starting point for tonight, so that we're not starting with no edits. So please take a look at that. Let me share my screen as soon as I find it. There is a version with all the changes accepted. Should I show the one with the changes showing? Let's start there. Let's see. Okay. So this is showing the changes that I recommended based on the feedback. Significantly changed, actually, reduced in length quite a bit. We had feedback that it could be much more succinct. And so I thought that was great feedback to have.
Oh, I don't know. We should go on all the changes. I forgot how hard it is to read.
I can go to the one where it's accepted, because I do have a few more changes to that as well. But I think it would be easier to look at that. I'm just going to scroll through those so everyone can see where we're working, what we're working with. Let me move to the other one. hopefully you all had a chance to look at the new version. And let us know if you have further suggestions. Are there any sections you guys want to focus on?
That follow-up question, did we get
Mm,
any clarity on the use of K-12 administrator?
Yeah,
How was
so,
it going? Are you changing?
no, I think I have it. Oops.
Needs and required, it's the first one,
Okay,
and then that one.
well, Lori had a question about current K through 12 administrative license. Say that again?
That's how they do.
Is that how it's, what it's called? Okay.
You don't get just a K-8 or just a 9-12.
Yeah, but it wasn't that one, it was. Is that
Experience as a
second bullet?
classroom teacher.
Go back up, can you go to required? There, that one, a minimum of 4 years leadership experience as a K-12 administrator. Does that mean in a K-12 school, or is that? Because I think the concern there, I don't remember which of the the people we got input from groups,
The councils?
yeah, I don't remember who raised it, but saying that it would be better not to have it say a Minnesota K-12 administrator license.
I think I took Minnesota out.
So we're getting away from the idea that it's a Minnesota license, but does that suggest that the person or that it's a high school?
No,
Okay. And
that's,
it's, okay,
I mean, I would read that to be any sort of K-12 administrative experience, so you. Be K-8, it could be K-6, it could be 9-12. Anywhere in the K-12 continuum.
Okay.
Which is pretty acceptable. Pre-K is a very different experience or setups, especially in most states, so I.
as I know, right, at one point we had some conversation about, why do we care about high school? We don't have one, and.
I think why I would keep it as K-12 though, is because you might get somebody who has 9-12 administrative experience, who's just as qualified as someone who has K-8 administrative experience. I'm not sure I would leave the continuum. I don't think I would shorten the continuum. That would be my recommendation.
Mhm. No, I think my question was, is that a term of art? Is that the way we refer, at least in Minnesota, to the licensure? Because I looked at the licensing site and they don't call it that, so that must just be what other people call it. Or at least the site I was.
What are
looking
they
at.
calling it?
It's just a Minnesota administrator license, and then you check the box whether you're going for principal, superintendent, something else, and like community something. Community educator. What was it there? I can't remember what it's
So-
special education was it?
So K-12 is nomenclature that you would see across the United States.
Okay,
I think you would want to leave it there as not a licensure term, but as a. You may or may not want to have, I don't know that you'd want to consider someone who hasn't had any K-12.
agreed. No, my
Administrative
misunderstanding
experience.
or my reading of it was, did you have to be at a like K-12 school? And I'm hearing the answer that's no, because that's the administrator license that allows you to be an administrator at a
Should we just
School.
change it to school administrator?
You could, it
Looking
would,
at my license, it says principal K-12 administrator. Would be Yeah, like you could take somebody who has a director license. So
well,
that's-
but I think it's in the way I'm looking at this, because the administrator is not capitalized, therefore K-12 is referring to the type of administrative experience you've had. And so sped director would have worked in a K-12 setting. Who this would exclude would be pre-K school directors, it would exclude higher education administrators. And I'm not sure that's necessarily a bad thing, because you might have a preschool director or school leader who has also had K-8 experience as an administrator, who probably has what you want for this job, but I'm not sure you would want a preschool director who has no K-8 or K-12 experience of any kind, because it's a very different administrative set of administrative tasks, challenges that you might not have what you need in order to navigate those challenges.
So you just said K-8, is that a thing?
It
Like,
can
do we
be,
say
but I would.
K-8 or or K-12?
So the K-12 gives you the whole continuum of somebody who's worked in a school setting that operates basically by the same set of rules. The only way you get out of the K-12 setting is by working in higher ed or pre-K. So K-12 gives you the
Okay.
breadth you need to cover any sort of grade level life administrative experience they've had, but I think if you go to general school leadership, you broaden your options for sure. But some of that administrative experience may not then be in a K-12 setting. And those people may or may not have the experience necessary to understand scope and sequence, academic standards, the same sorts of professional development needs, state statutes, federal statutes around what governs K-12 schools. Because it's a whole different set of guidelines that govern pre-K or higher ed. And statutes and laws. It's a good question, I understand why you're asking.
Mhm. Any other questions or thoughts on the edited version here? There were a lot of comments around the years of experience there. Our last draft had 3, so I brought it up to 4 to split the difference. Our previous job description had 5. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the max report I forwarded, but 1 to 4 years experience is at least a third of other directors. That's quite common. I can pull that up if I need to. At 11% had 0 years of experience. Anyway, so asking on the higher end of that first kind of third of actually 40%, I think makes a lot of sense. Just comparing to what other schools have. for those who aren't aware, the MAX, Minnesota Association of Charter Schools, put out a leadership report with quite a bit of helpful information about who are executive directors, including other titles that schools use. Some call them principals, some call them head of school, some call them charter school director. So there's a lot of variety in names. I think the way that this is written is more with an academic slant to it. And so I'm wondering if we want to call it executive director / principal, or if we just want to keep it executive director.
Do you think that parents kind of naturally think that the executive director is the principal? So I could
Mhm,
see a case being made for the shared title.
mhm.
I think that's often confusing.
Yeah, I think
It is.
executive director is the top title.
Mhm.
Or even kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when we didn't have a principal, it was a weird concept for a lot of, especially elementary kids. Mine being the,
Test case.
yeah.
This was an addition that wasn't in the board packet, but demonstrated knowledge of change management theory and practices. I thought would be useful.
I was gonna comment on that too. I felt like that was a good change, good addition.
One parent suggested adding demonstrated success in nonprofit fundraising, grant writing, revenue generation. I thought that was a great suggestion. Something that made me chuckle down in working conditions. One parent had commented that we are asking them to work outside in all weather conditions. Are we trying to scare them away?
Well, I mean, if we want somebody from Minnesota, that's gonna weed out some of the non-Minnesota.
We'll save on moving costs.
And so I-
Standing out in the playground is no joke in the middle of winter, right?
So I actually did take it out, but then I had Kim, our HR person, review it and she put it back in, so. It's gotta be there.
Which one, the keyboard one? Is that EEOC?
No, the working outside in all weather conditions.
I think you might need to put a berry in front of extended periods of climatic keyboard. Or extremely. I was gonna make a serious suggestion though, with your changing the minimum required qualifications to 4. That's fine the way it is. I was going to suggest before seeing that, that we keep it at 3, but make it like 5 or 7 or something in the preferred. Cause I see it more as, like. This will work. Obviously, this is better, kind of, you know.
Mhm.
And I just, a lot of job applications that I've seen, or not applications, postings that I've seen that do something similar.
Mhm.
You just move to 5+ then,
Yeah,
5+
like
years.
5+ preferred.
Editing mode. You guys wanna keep it at a new number of 4? or
Doesn't matter to
three?
me, I just
Okay,
was more concerned about the preferred.
I think 4 makes sense, and then
Mhm.
5 is the other threshold.
Have we had any? Does anybody who's been involved in prior search has have a sense of, is it hard to? Like, are we limiting ourselves a lot by saying 4?
If my memory serves me correct, any applications we received that had 0, we weren't interested in looking at for other reasons. So I don't think it necessarily limited us.
I'm not saying 0,
Yeah.
I'm saying 3 as compared to 4. I don't know what the pool looks like out there. Right?
I mean, based
Pool
on the
has
Max
not been
report,
great.
yeah,
I mean, we had 4 applications to consider
Right. That's
in
my question.
2021.
Would any of
and-
them,
Yeah. I mean, actually, at that time, neither of our finalists had 4 years or 5 years. So that says something.
Yeah.
Because at that time, we had 5 years as our threshold.
oh, so we just.
Huh?
So it didn't, it was there. Yeah, okay.
I guess we took, I mean, we interviewed 4
Yeah.
in the hiring committee and narrowed it down to 2, and those 2 went forward. Any other suggestions? All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the executive director job description. With changes.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion to approve the executive director job description. As shown with changes. All right, all those in favor of approving, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right,
We're down in a minute.
we have our consent agenda to approve, which contain the donation register, enrollment update approved. We approve the finance reports, letters to the board, approve board response to letters, and last month's open forum. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Hyde. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed say nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. All right, last item on the agenda is a closed session. Pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 13D, the open meeting law, a school board meeting may be closed to evaluate the performance of an individual who is subject to its authority. We are closing this meeting to review the performance reviews of Principal Elizabeth Senfenig. For reviews from school year 2021, school year 21-22, 22-23, and 23-24. And this is data private information related to the executive director hiring decision. We will also discuss additional performance feedback for Elizabeth Senfenig from the board. This will be summarized and a brief overview will be given at the next public meeting. The board will not be discussing a decision to hire Elizabeth Senfenig during closed session nor will we be discussing whether to post this publicly or not. Those discussions will happen tomorrow at our open meeting. All right. Thank you, everybody. We will go into closed session after a 5-minute recess.